Hey, this is Kyle again. Thanks for joining us for part two of our third video in the Marketing Basics series. We're talking about conducting research, and to pick up where we were in the last video, we're going to go through the first subsection of research where we're talking about doing a situation analysis of the company. So just to quickly recap, at the end of the last video, we introduced the framework of how you might do research in an integrated marketing plan. This is the first step of that, just knowing who your client is and understanding some of the information about how they operate as a company and how that might impact what we're going to do on their behalf when constructing a marketing plan. I think what I often see a lot in students' assignments is people start off with the company history. This company was formed in this year. This company has been located in this location for so many years. It's got this many employees. That information could be interesting. It could be relevant, but I'm thinking we need to get into much more detailed information about how they're performing today. So company history should just be pretty limited, just give us a quick introduction. I think what might be more interesting is thinking about how does that company history relate to branding. So basically understanding how do they position themselves as a brand? How do they think of themselves as a unique and different competitor in their industry? I think understanding the way they position themselves is really helpful because that's going to shape a lot of your marketing communications. You'll learn a lot more about that when we get into the branding class in the bachelor program. I think you also just need to make sure you have a clear understanding of what is the product or service that you're talking about in this campaign. We can often make assumptions. This product is this. But a lot of people might interpret the value of a product or service in different ways. And it's good to be kind of thinking about what that means exactly. Is Coca-Cola just a carbonated soft drink? Or does Coca-Cola bring happiness to people? Much of the brand identity is kind of built around that idea. It's bringing people closer together. And that's why people will pay a premium sometimes for brands, even though the product is maybe not that different from other products in the category. So understanding that who the brand is, understanding the backstory of the product and the way it might be interpreted differently is very helpful. You really need to understand the business plan because one thing that we're doing with marketing, we're generally trying to drive additional sales. We want more revenue coming in. If you understand the larger business plan outside of marketing, that's going to really help. It's going to be darn near impossible to create sales objectives if you don't know how much money you're making today. So look at the business plan, understand the financial history of the company. Think about how marketing plays its part with larger business interests. There are other things you have to consider, just like, what are your real estate holdings? How large is your company workforce? In a class where you're just doing a quick integrated plan, you might not have time to understand too much about your company. You can't go in too deep. But if you are really doing a serious multi-million-dollar campaign for a client, you would really want to understand a lot about how their business works. I think understanding the financial shape of the company is not just knowing about how much money they have been making. You really need to have good perspective of what the market share is like, thinking about are they gaining or losing business. That's very important for you to understand the health of the finances of your client. To make products or to deliver services, you do have to kind of be thinking about like some of those other aspects of marketing, product price distribution. So are there any challenges with the manufacturing or storing or shipping, whatever your product or service is, to your consumers? You often have a target audience that you've already identified. That doesn't mean that you can't create a new one and have that change for this campaign, but understanding who you've been going after in the past and what kind of success you've had with that target will be really, really helpful for you in doing your campaign. And then finally, are there any corporate benchmarks that have been established That could have been done in a past campaign. There might just be company-wide goals. It's very common for larger companies to have stated KPIs, that's key performance indicators. And if you know what those things are, you stand a much greater chance of resonating with your client when you're explaining why you should win the business, why you should be the one that's doing the marketing campaign. All right, well, in our next video, we'll move on from understanding who the client is, and we'll go on to a discussion of understanding the competitors. So tune in for part 3.